Today we are looking into alternate and correspondent angle. From the problem we solved in the last class, we had to solve the correspondent angle of y. Okay, now I want to link it with the alternate angle. How can we find both correspondent angle and alternate angle? Okay, let me take you back to the two letters you can use to identify the correspondent and alternate angle. Okay, for correspondent angle, we use an F. Okay, we use an F, and this F has two different, let me draw it properly. This is this side. Okay, this side is giving you something like this. If you can view it with me. Alright, this is it. Okay, for alternate angle, we have Z. If you can view it with me. So these are the angles. We have an angle here, we have an angle here. We have an angle here, we have an angle here. We have an angle here, we have an angle, and so on. Okay? For the alternate angle, we have an angle right here. So we use an F to explain correspondent, while we use a Z to explain that of alternate angle. So from here, let's extract these angles into this place. Okay, right here, for the F that is facing this way, I have a B, X, D, and Y. Okay, look at it here. B, I have X under here, I have D, and then I have Y. Okay, now let's consider the F that is facing your left hand side. Okay, I have A up here, I have E, I have C, and then I have 75 degrees. Okay? Okay, for the alternate angle, okay, I have the Z that is facing the left hand side and the Z that is facing the right hand side. Okay, right here, where can we locate the Z that is facing your left hand side? This is the Z. For this place, for this E, I have an E this way, and then I have a D in this place. Okay, for the Z that is facing your right hand side, I have X, and then I have C. View it with me. Okay? Alright. Now, how can we find these letters? Our correspondent angles are equal. Those angles are correspondent, that correspond to each other, they are equal. While the angles that are alternate to each other are also equal. Okay, right now, how do we find, what do we go with first? We go with Y first, okay? Because Y will at least give us an A to every other angles. Okay, how do we find Y? We can find Y, looking at Y is on the straight line with 75 facing down, like we had in the last class. I solved that in the last class. Okay, sum of angles on the straight line is equal to 180. Already you know that one. Okay, so I have that Y degrees plus 75 degrees is equal to 180 degrees. Y degrees is equal to 180 degrees minus 75 degrees. Y degrees is equal to 105 degrees. That is how we found what Y is. So we said that Y is equal to 105 degrees. Okay, so if Y is equal to 105 degrees, we say that Y corresponds to what? X. Look at it here. Coming to this angle, Y corresponds to what? X. Okay, because X is found under the line and Y is found under the line. So if here is equal to 105 degrees, then X is also equal to 105 degrees. Alright. Now, if X here now is equal to 105 degrees, now we are going to use X, okay, to find A. With what tool? What are we going to use to find A? We're going to use vertically opposite angle. That also has been done in the past class. So using vertically opposite angle, we say the vertically opposite angles are equal. That means if here is 105 degrees, then A is also 105 degrees. So this A here is also 105 degrees. Okay? Now where can that A be found? Look at the A here. Are you seeing the A here? So it means that this particular A here is 105 degrees. So if A is 105 degrees, it means that C is also 105 degrees. And this is the C right here. Okay? Now, looking at here, 75 corresponds with E. Okay? 75 right here corresponds with E. That means if here is 75 degrees sitting under the line, then E is also 75 degrees. Are you getting what I'm doing? Yes. So now we know what our C is. C is 105 degrees. E is 75 degrees. A is 105 degrees. And of course, you know what your reasons are. You know when they are correspondent, because A corresponds with C and E corresponds with what? 75. Okay. Now right here, Y corresponds with X. But we've not found D and B. We've not found D and B. So how do we find D and B? How do we find D and B? Alright? Now, looking at this place, the both of them are on the line. Okay, we can use vertically opposite angle to go for D. D is vertically opposite to 75. Yes. So D is equal to 75 degrees. So if D is 75 degrees, that means B is also 75 degrees. And what is your reason? Correspondent angle. So B is also 75 degrees. Yes. So right here, I'm going to transfer them to this place just for us to be sure that everything is done. Okay, now I have values for all these angles on the correspondent angles. Okay, all right. Now we're going to alternate angles. All right. How are they alternate? Now we are bringing out the angles that are alternate. It means that if this is E, what is E from here? E from here is 75 degrees. So if E is 75 degrees, then D should also be what? 75 degrees alternate angle. So I'm going to fix it in here. So E is 75 degrees and D is also 75 degrees. Okay, coming to this particular one, this is the X and it is alternate to what? C. So where is C? Where is C? Look at C right here. C is 105 degrees. So if C is 105 degrees, alternating to X, it means that X is also 105 degrees. So right here we have 105 degrees and here we have 105 degrees. You see that in all of this, I didn't really solve anything. The only thing I solved here was Y, just to get, you see that when I solved for Y, it gave us an aid to every other thing we need using correspondent and alternate angle. So if you know your correspondent angle and you are very much familiar with alternate angles, you don't have any problem with finding lettered angles. Thank you. Okay, right now we want to have an exercise with a student. Let me get a student who is going to help us out with this problem.
6 years reading at 2 degrees, that means corresponding angles is equal to, that means x is 92, p is also 92.
Alright.
It's 8 degrees. So and if you don't want to use it, you can actually use alternate angles to find Q2.
Okay, he just said that you can also use other methods, you can also use alternate angle to still get these angles.
We are going to find x. How are we going to find x now? X will be 135 because opposite angles are equal. We are going to find A. So before we find A, let's find B. Let's find this angle. Let's just put it as angle Y. So angle Y will be 135. So corresponding angles are equal. So it will give us 135. Then A, here will be 135. A will also be 135 because corresponding angles are equal. So we are going to find B. To find B, we have to use angle on a straight line. Angle on a straight line is equal to 180. So we minus 135 from 180. That will give us 45 degrees.